Allan, welcome to the West Coast Business Show. For the audience, we got William Donlan. He is the host of the West Coast Business Show, along with myself, Jared Downing. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Jared. Yeah.
You two have known each other a long time, right?
We have. Yeah.
You've got interesting stories of how you've met different guests on the show. What's your two's backstory?
You're on, William.
Yeah, I think we met first in Terminal City Club.
Yeah.
Probably, I don't know if it was 5 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, over 5.
Yeah, so that's where we met first, and we've done lots of things together since, including a lovely trip up to Honor Ranch to see what you've created up there, which is quite spectacular, and you can tell us a bit about that.
Sure, love to do that.
Very soon. But yeah, we swing in the same circles and have lots of mutual friends, and I must say over that 5 or 7 years since I got to know you, your name has often popped up in conversation, and I've never heard a bad word said about Allan Degenova.
Well, it's got to be a few words out there. It's what keeps me sharp, but that's okay. Even my family doesn't love me from time to time. But that's okay.
I remember actually a very quick story. Paul Boza, a good friend of ours, Paul said to me one time in the gym, he said, "You know, I remember the first time I met Allan a long, long time ago. I think you found him his first
home. His first home when it was his girlfriend."
Yeah. Paul was wife. He said, "I was wondering this, like, what's with this guy? Like, he's so nice. There has to be something. Like, nobody could be that nice." But he said, years went by, and I figured out, yeah, no, he's just a good guy. He's a great guy. I remember Paul telling me that story, but no, that's my experience with Al as well.
It's great funny, guy. when we first talked, you were telling me your backstory. So I'm sitting there on the phone, and you're telling me about Honor House, and you're going through sort of your history with real estate, and I'm listening, and I thought, we've met before, because I've heard this exact story. But it was through Santos Telerico.
Yeah.
When I was doing a different show, he was going to try to get you on. So he told me all this backstory. So we've sort of been in the same circles at Ashcroft, Savannah, Kamloops.
It's a small country, small world, as the saying is, but small in BC. And, you know, the old, you know, that saying really, you know, it's about community, people, and all my years of being here in Canada. And, it's amazing what kind of goes around comes around. There's even been times that, yes, you butt heads with people a little bit over whatever in your young days. I've always taken the high road, try to be positive. But there's, you know, in the Italian world, you can only push you so far. And, but it's amazing how it comes around, and you get those people that say, geez, okay, maybe I was wrong or whatever, and it's a kumbaya. But because, you know, we're not here a long time, and all those bridges that you build and maintain with people over the decades, it's been really pretty magical, I have to say.
Sometimes it's nice to get the blood going a bit, though.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's been recently. But I have to say, you know, it always comes together as long as, you know, you can't be always perfect all the time.
Yeah.
It only helps you to hone in to be a better person. But I have to say that working in this community, when I say that even throughout British Columbia and many hats that I wear, the people were pretty lucky, not only British Columbia, but Canada as a whole. And last many months and going back this whole last year, how, you know, the world evolved and how things change, and trying to stay with that change. But in my world of what I do, it affects a lot of people. And so that's my goal, is to make sure that they're okay. So if they're okay, they're looking after us. So that's a big part of what I do.
Well, you mentioned the Honor House. Actually, I was thinking I'd like to hear your experience going up there and just seeing the facility, because it's quite the place. And then you kind of, Allan, giving some backstory about, for anybody who doesn't know what Honor House, but you actually went up there and visited it, right?
I did, yeah. Al asked me one day, would I be interested in going up there with him? And I said I couldn't think of anything nicer. And he picked me up at my house in Kitsilano, and off we went. We'd done a day trip up and down in the same day.
Yeah.
We had lots on, and we just wanted to squeeze it in. But phenomenal place, and a real credit to you. And I know you were a real driving force behind that. But you can speak a bit more about that, because you'll know more detail than I do. But just a place where people can get away to, you know, maybe people who are suffering from PTSD or trauma, people who work in the emergency services in particular. And they can go up there and spend a bit of time there. You got a few horses up there. What were their names again?
Gunner, Indy, and Ted.
That's right. Yeah,
Gunner's just like a big
Teddy.
dog.
Yeah, and hang out with the horses, and it's real therapy, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm into horses myself as well, and
Yeah.
so are you. So they're special. Yeah, they're special animals, and when you can, go up there and spend that time with them and create that connection, it helps for sure.
Oh, for sure. It's life-changing, life-altering in a lot of cases, and we're saving a lot of lives.
Copper Beach Bar and Kitchen, not just a dining destination. We are located along the Sea to Sky Highway in Britannia Beach. Come and enjoy our delicious menu and wide selection of drinks while taking in stunning views from our heated patio. We host live music and trivia nights weekly. Whether you're hosting a birthday party or corporate event, we offer a versatile space that can accommodate up to 100 guests. Visit copperbeachbar.com to discover how we can help you create unforgettable memories in Britannia Beach. Discover Geo Cider, where Squamish natural beauty meets artisanal cider craftsmanship. Our passionate team creates small batch ciders that capture the essence of the Sea to Sky corridor. From our signature Old World apple with hints of toffee to unique blends like dark fruit and peach, there's a cider for every palate. Enjoy our warm atmosphere, wide selection of craft ciders and beers, and mouth-watering food pairings. Whether you're a local or just passing through, GeoCider offers a taste of Squamish you won't forget. Visit geocider.com to learn more about our cider making process and upcoming events. GeoCider, where cider makes life better. IRL Construction is your trusted licensed residential builder and general contractor in Vancouver. Our team excels in delivering complex concrete formwork and large-scale industrial builds, leveraging innovative techniques and advanced technologies. From wastewater treatment plants to major industrial facilities, we bring precision and reliability to every project. Our comprehensive construction management services ensure efficient execution and superior quality results, even in the most challenging industrial environments. Visit irlgroup.ca/construction to discover how our concrete and industrial construction expertise can bring your vision to life in Vancouver.
So what do people go there? What is sort of the criteria of going there?
Yeah, whereas there's like Honor House that we have in New Westminster, it's a home away from home. Well, they get treatment in the Greater Vancouver for as long as our men and women in uniform, our police, fire, ambulance, our Canadian Armed Forces. Many of those first responders are also members of the Canadian Armed Forces. While they get treatment in the Greater Vancouver for as long as they need at no cost. Honor Ranch gives that treatment. So we're up in Ashcroft. We sit on 160 acres, just up on the bench. So about a 3.5-hour drive from Vancouver, or driving with William about 25 minutes. It's pretty quick. We get there. So we're in a hurry, but it's okay. It works out great on a good dry day.
So that's through the canyon you went?
Through the canyon.
Oh,
yeah.
you gotta go fast on that.
It's quite lovely. You get some dry days, and in this case, went up in the award-winning Land Rover Defender, all kitted out.
Yeah,
so
we need to touch base on that too.
It was pretty magical. But that being said, the ranch has been a facility with our horses, with Teddy, Indy, and Gunner. They're part of our equine program. But just when you're up there as well, Jared, it's the old saying, there's a lot of good programs around BC to help our men and women in uniform that struggle with post-traumatic stress or other kinds of health and wellness. But I've learned that not one size fits all. And Honor Ranch has the flexibility where sometimes it's just a couple of people going up and just hanging out, helping at the ranch, working on fencing, working with our horses, our grounds that we need to do. Some of our cabins need some work repair. So therapeutic in that way, and or to full-on programs that they need through our dog program, our equine program, one-on-one. So different programs for different people. And because, like I say, one size does not fit all, and they need to feel good about themselves. It fits in a form that meets nearly everyone's needs, central enough to get people from around Canada there, out in Kamloops. They'll fly in, we pick them up, bring them to the ranch. Some will drive up in vans, if it's usually a group, as a rule, about 10. We've had up to about 15 to 16 at max, based on our cottages that we have. We're planning now, the coming years, to build out another 10. The demand, unfortunately, is that great. But for now, we're holding our own. We're looking after as many as we can, and it's been working well.
So I didn't realize it was Canada-wide. This is not just BC.
No, we have people come from all over Canada to stay at Honor Ranch, yeah. Same like our JTF2, our Joint Task Force 2 men and women. These are like the US's Navy SEALs, Special Forces. CSOR members will be up this year. And then a lot of other RCMP, paramedics, police, different detachments from all over will come, sometimes as a group or individuals from their own units.
Take the road to freedom today and reshape your future with a Shamrock Storehouse Irish pub. We've crafted a success-driven model that makes owning your dream business simple, affordable, and rewarding. Keep more of what you earn while creating a thriving community hub. With Shamrock Storehouse, you're not just opening a pub, you're building a legacy and creating memorable experiences for your community. Visit shamrockstorehouse.com today to take the first step towards owning your local Irish pub. Call us at 778-328-1884 or email info@shamrockstorehouse.com to start your journey. Vanway Properties, where properties are passion and people are our priority. As an award-winning Vancouver-based developer with over 25 years of experience, we're committed to creating exceptional real estate projects. We focus on sustainable building, smart solutions, and community contribution. From strategic development management to innovative design, visit vanwayproperties.com to discover how we can turn your real estate aspirations into reality.
And are these people that are retired, or are they still serving?
Fully active.
Fully active.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Same with JTF2 or CSOR. They're fully active, serve and deploy around the world on a moment's call, right down to our fire, police, currently active serving, and sometimes some traumatic things, or it can be triggers. They're serving something else on that last call, that one more rock in the pack, and that just, trips them, and they're struggling. You can go to some pretty good facilities on the island or even here in Vancouver, but it's sometimes they just need that difference, a bit of a working ranch to be involved, the one-on-one in their circle and or in the main lodge for group therapy, whatever it takes. We offer all those facilities at no cost. We don't pretend to know how to run the programs. It's not our area, but everything that we have in the way of the facilities and the horses, all the amenities itself to get around, we offer at no cost, and then they bring in their own therapists.
So they're on site there.
They
therapists come in.
Yeah, because again, tailoring geared for what they need.
Oh, I see.
So because you can't have one person when you're dealing with individuals or a group that have struggled. So it's tailored very much to their needs, which is unique in itself.
Well, I talked to, and I don't know much about it and won't pretend to, but I was talking to a psychologist, and he said, somebody can get PTSD from something that's some would seem minimal, and then some people can be in the very intense situations. It's not indicative of what you've done or what environment you've been in. It's how your brain reacts to it. So it's very complex.
Very, yeah. And every individual is
different. That extra
different.
rock in the pack was an interesting way of saying it. You don't know where that tipping point is.
Yeah, and some can carry a heavier pack than others. So the one size does not fit all is very much the case. Some people that are, of special forces, ERT, trigger differently than somebody that's put in 2 tours in Afghanistan, or right now I see the ones coming back that have just timed out from the Canadian Armed Forces and now have 2 tours up to 3 in the Ukraine. One just got back just recently in weeks.
Was that Jared?
What?
There was a Jared, because
that's right.
weren't sure who it was when I phoned you.
Yeah. I was just looking at that note this morning, actually.
Yeah.
About him. Yeah, it's interesting to bring that up. Yeah. And that will be his last tour because it wears on you, right? And just dealing with our Invictus games, the Ukraine families came and learned about what Honor House was. They showed up, and they very much like to do an Honor House in the Ukraine, as big as it is. It'd be like in Canada. We have one Honor House. The goal would be Halifax, Toronto, and Ottawa, and almost coast to coast to coast. But with the ranch coming in, the demand was so great. I'm kind of the one-man show at the moment and building a board that's strong, but it takes certain things to bring it together and to keep costs down. And it's all about in-kind materials. I don't want to rely on government, because I don't want to go back to our men and women in uniform ever and say, sorry, we've had to cut programs because we can't fund it. Veteran Affairs has been very good, though. I have in Surrey right now called Veterans Village, 96 units to help house our men and women in uniform, similar but longer stay under a 19 bed program that we have up to 1 year. They go through a program for everything from detox, mental health, physical disabilities, through the Clinical of Excellence out there. Very unique, the first of its kind in Canada. And we just had our Minister of Veterans Affairs through last week, and pretty impressed, because they hear about it, but until you're actually there and see what we do for our men and women, his men and women in full program. It's pretty, again, life altering. It's kind of the last chance for them, and we're saving lives there. And again, very unique. So Veteran Affairs has helped to step up there to keep the program running. A bit different from what we call VA, Veteran Affairs. But I think when they came out there, they realized, you spend a nickel, but you save $1 because it's all about the preventive or catching it early. And we need to do more of that.
We want to get into some of your background. I mean, we could do an entire episode. It feels like we almost shouldn't transition out of this, but there's so much to cover in your backstory. I just want to ask a quick question. The gentleman, same name as mine, Jared. Canadians serving over in Ukraine. What is that? Is that like a volunteer?
They have to be. They can't be active serving as
Right.
part of the whole NATO and UN and the trigger that Putin would say and others that, if there's any full serving members, that sets it off. So they've timed out over the last 5 years. A lot of them that are going back served in 2016, 2018 in the artillery side that I'm involved with as an honorary colonel. A lot of them go over there and at that time and trained, also in infantry. So when they've timed out after years, and it's recent that they've been there, they have a lot of their friends still there. They're compelled to go back and help. And as things were ramping up and getting intense over there, they felt they had to go back and help their comrades. And that's what they've been doing. They go for about 8 months. And this one young fellow has 3 tours in. So he's been gone 24 months over 5 years. That's a lot of time away from family. That's all he knows. He came out of the forces, Reg Force, and then reserves. And it was tough for him, but it's all he knows. And a lot of our soldiers, when they go into theater and find it challenging, that's all they know. They find it hard to integrate coming back. And, the government sometimes to check and thank you very much doesn't always have the best way of helping them transition out and back into civilian life. I'm hoping that's what we can do. And my mission now, this next 3 years, is to see that I can create workforce housing for a lot of them that come back. Have to start in a way, starting over. They have to find their jobs in the civilian world. The cost in British Columbia is very high, never mind to own, but just to rent. I'm learning. And also, too, Jared, it's about a lot of our first responders. They're also reservists. And Canadian Armed Forces are made up. 85% of our men and women are reservists, but fully trained and ready to deploy within a week's time around the world. And we got many right now around the world, and especially a big recruit and deployment into Latvia right now.
Like I said, there's so much just in this that we could cover. So maybe I'll hand it over to you, William.
Yeah, I think it'll be good to hear a little bit of your backstory for our guests. Yes, this is a business show, and you have been in business for a few decades now, and you've had a very successful career. And we'd love to hear, I guess, how you got started, how you ended up in Canada, a bit of your backstory.
Yeah, and how that actually wound up into my community and Honor House and Honor Ranch, because it's a journey that you take. And, here I am an honorary colonel, but it all started way back when I was a customs officer when I was very young. I was going to be a wildlife game warden, working at George C. Rifle Bird Sanctuary. And from there, the position that I wanted to have was going to be open, but it wasn't. So, and during that time, back then, John Fraser was an MP. He said, GL, I'm sorry, but in the interim, I can have you work at marine terminals down on Hastings and Burrard and Customs House, it was called. And I was a CR4 customs officer. That's going a long ways back. And it was interesting for the short time I was there. But to fast forward in a sense, it wasn't for me for a lot of reasons. It was interesting how full circle it goes. But a lot of the men and women when I was young and working there, all those men and women that were there came out of World War II. And when you go back in the late 40s, and then they've worked there for a lot of years and getting ready to time out when I came in. So you hear about their stories. And I thought, my mom wanted me when we came to Canada to work for the federal government and have that steady job and, the pension, right? In Europe, it was always very orchestrated in Switzerland and even the northern part of Italy. That whole thing is, it was regimented, and she was very much about that. And my dad was a little different. He was a stonemason, laid back, and everything was a bit manana. And come to Canada for the free enterprise. We struggled ever since we got here, but it was. I learned my mom wanted to be back in Switzerland. The structure was great. My grandfather had cut Nazi trucking, and then it was phenomenal. And that's where he wanted me to take over that business when I was young. And my mom wanted that as well, but my dad wanted to come to Canada, so we were on that boat, sailed across the sea, and here we were. And it's like a lot of newer immigrants. You go to certain parts of, in this case, winding up right in British Columbia or Vancouver. Some will land in Montreal and then figure out where they're going to go. We came right to Vancouver. There was a bit of an Italian community here, and then the Swiss community was set up as well. So my dad had his part, my mom had hers. It worked together, and as part of the Swiss Italian community. So I built from there and just was figuring out my journey. Everything was new. My parents didn't speak English that well, and especially my mom. And so the transition was a bit challenging as I've gotten to learn myself here. So in my younger years, working my way through to where I was a customs officer, it wasn't just really for me. Back to BCIT is where they told me to go. And I looked at sales and marketing, went into that. I was picked up by a company called Canada Cup. And no, it wasn't the hockey team, but it was a manufacturer of the foam cups, containers, and disposable products. So I started to, when I got picked up from them, it was a large company across Canada, part of the US, and still operating to this day. And I worked there for a few years with a fellow by the name of Vince Holmes. And I was selling to all these major distributors. One of them was Smith Paper, Pat Mulhern, and my territory when I was working was predominantly in the Italian and the Chinese community, showing these products to encourage them to switch over as a manufacturer's rep. But I was, by then, being the person I am, and knowing the product line, I was determined to see that they got better value environmentally when we got into those early years of what that meant. And then people would often see landfill, in this case, injection foam or styrofoam being basically steam chested. And I had to really show the reasons over the paper cups in those days. So, and how does all this relate to real estate when I get here and where I am today, and how your journey finds your way? Very interesting. Right down to you, William, with friends today. And I go way back, and I'm talking going back almost 40 years. So the journey, or, roughly 500, months from then. And so it was about that time that Smith Paper picked me up from the Canada Cup as the manufacturer's rep to a distributor's rep. And so they gave me the territory of Chinatown. Ironically, here's the Italian coming from Europe, showing up in Chinatown. It was a bit ironic because I always felt guilty that it was the Italians that stole the recipe of pasta from the Chinese anyway. So I told them I owed them everything, and here they laugh. Their English down in Chinatown wasn't great. My Chinese name came very quickly. It was Zhang Lokwa, and that means Zhang being Genova. Lokwa is my promise to you. So my Degenova's promise to you. So I got very involved right away, and with the Chinatown Merchants Association. Couldn't help myself because Chinatown was struggling back in those days. They worked hard 7 days a week, new immigrants as well. And again, how does this relate to real estate? And this was the pinnacle of where my career came. And it's amazing, like I just said, your journey and how things you don't always know where that takes you. It was probably the best times of my life back in those days. And so I was calling on Lunfun, Daibon, Hongdae, Kiwa, and all these shops for years. There was a talk show there that I got involved with, Hanson Law, with Wakuji Singh, and got really engaged in that community and realizing that in Vancouver, Chinatown, and I see today what Carol Lee is doing and how she's brought it to that stage, tried very hard going back 40 years ago because all the neon lights and what Chinatown was. But it was struggling because the cost of operating at that time, property taxes were very high as it was climbing land values. But to sell a Gaime Bao and all the staff and all the products that they needed to sell to stay afloat was getting difficult. And so I realized we need to create what's known as a BIA way back then, the Business Improvement Association, to help them promote themselves, kind of like Granville Street and Robson, and get the town into a bit of a marketing plan. We built the Chinatown parking garage that was there in the early days above ground on a site that was heavily contaminated. And that's where they made the gasification for Gastown here. It was all manufactured there for the gas lanterns way back in those days, hence the contamination. So we had to cap it and enclose the contamination. And then there's a whole filtration system once a year, built the parking garage above, made that free so people would come to the Vancouver Chinatown as opposed to Richmond, which was becoming very popular. So I was working those merchants, helping them along. We have formed a group called ATTACK, the Angry Taxpayers Action Committee, to help fight against the province and the city at that time because the taxes were getting so high they couldn't survive. And to this day, were people saying, where was the vibrancy? So I organized this group, and between the BIA and the Chinatown Merchants Association's other things to promote why it'd be great to come down in cultures, coming from a culture of my own, very close to families. In the Chinese community, they're very much your friends, or in a sense they're not. They're very divided in that way. You can find the closeness. And a lot of European families worked very closely with them. And if they needed something, I remember this day, 203, 28 tart foils, little tart foils you have, and all the codes that I had. If they needed a case, I'd run all the way to Burnaby, bring a case down. Well, they really said, Chinatown, thank you. They needed that. It cost me more to go pick that up and bring it down, but it was about building trust and helping their businesses grow. So my business would grow for the company that I work with, Smith's Paper. Well, over that period of a few years, I controlled that whole entire market by that time, even up against my Asian distributors. And I was going from where our company was doing $50,000 to purchase Smith Paper in the early days from the CIBC Bank on the corner of Pender and Main to where we were doing $100 million a year in sales. So it grew astronomically, and it was very successful. So it was in the Chinese community where I was at the Lower Mainland Grocers one day. I remember it vividly. And I met this fellow, Mr. Jang, and they were starting to ask me, Jean-Luc, I need to buy a house. I need to buy a warehouse and this. So I met this fellow, Mr. Jang. He said, oh, my son's into real estate. You have to meet him. His name's Vic Jang. I said, okay. So I meet this Vic Jang, and I said, Vic, I got Wang Wei who wants to buy a small warehouse to store all his extra products because the shops in Chinatown. He had Dollar Meat Store and known as Uncheng and Man Sing and the various shops that he owned and operated. So he needed more storage. So I showed, and Vic came up with a warehouse for him. One was in Burnaby, one was down on South Fraser Way. And then it became the smaller apartments for the family and other products. Then they were buying homes because I was selling them so many 52720 containers to take out Chinese food containers. Well, if they bought them in volume, they'd get a 5% trailer discount, a 5% known as Ballpex. That was a national distributor discount that I could pass on to them. Well, the amount of volume they were going through, they'd take 200 cases, 300 cases, 500 to a package. What does that mean, and how does that translate to real estate? Well, they would go out and buy 1 home, 2 homes, 3 homes because they needed to store their product, and they'd store it in the basements and rent upstairs. So in the real estate side, I'd call Vic Jang up and I'd say, hey, I need houses to store the product below, rent upstairs. And he said, wow. So over the last little while, he said, Al, you're doing so much business in real estate, more than paper products. You should come get into the real estate world. I said, how am I going to support that? That's commission. I'm paid really well at Smith Paper. And I find it would be difficult. I've got 3 little kids and I work 7 days a week. Well, it came down to it where at the end, Vic says, this is what I think you can do. So I went and saw Pat Mulhern, my boss, and told him I was going to leave. Well, nobody ever left Smith Paper. He was not a happy camper, but I did leave, and I joined with Vic Jang. That was 32 years ago to this day. And I moved over and started with a company there called Sutton. And it was just in the early stages then. And we were over on 1212 West Broadway. Didn't have a clue. Remember, it was going to be a struggle. I had no idea how in the world am I going to feed my 3 little kids in real estate. Well, I'll never forget. It was about month 3. And it was okay, but it wasn't the community that I came from and the vibrancy. Even though they were calling me to help me to keep things going a bit, I was very worried and I didn't think I could make it. So one night, I'll never forget it, I got a knock on the door at my home. I didn't show up to Chinatown, to the Merchants Association, got all the programs going that we were doing. I was there nightly down there in these, what we call the men's clubs and all the seniors things that they do down on the 100 Pender. So they show up, and who was that? Was King Wong, Edmund Lee, and Donald Lee Young. And they knocked at the door. My wife opened up, and it was Wendy. They called her Windy. So they said, Windy, where's Jean Lacroix? And she says in there, they always said Windy, and they put her into the other room. Come in with oranges, apples, whiskey, the whole thing, lychee nuts, everything. Put me in the kitchen. I'll never forget it. I sat where you were there, Jared. Wong Wei sat there. Edmund Lee sat there. And Donald Lee sat there. So Donald Lee, Edmund Lee, and Wong Wei. So we were in there, and I was sitting at the end of the table. I was in my pajamas, didn't shave for a whole week. I didn't know where I was going to go in my life. I just left the best company in the world selling paper products in Chinatown for my career. It was phenomenal. And the best job ever. And so all of this territory was also mine as well. Gastown, Hastings Street, Save On Meats, Double Happiness, the only seafoods in all of Chinatown, because it just kept growing. They heard about what I had to offer. Phenomenal opportunity that I had. And it was just, I couldn't say it was just tremendous. So Chinese community back then says, Jean Lacroix, you got to run for office, be our voice. I have no clue of politics I'm used to. So got into the political world and got elected in the city of Vancouver as a park commissioner as I was just getting into the real estate world, because they saw what I was in there helping them with houses and this, and I was worried I couldn't make it. So they then wanted me to run for office and help them. So I thought, how in the world am I going to kind of do both? And they knew I was worried. So when they were at the house, there I was, Wong Wei, Edmund Lee, Donald Lee Young. I remember the whole system. I was at the table in my pajamas. My wife was in the other room, typical, older style Chinese community. So Jean-Luc, why you're worried? Wong Wei, we always used to hit me on the forehead like this. You stupid, he said. You're not listening. Where have you been this whole week? I said, Wong Wei, I don't know where and what I'm going to do right now. He says, you worry too much. Not long after that, all the food's on the table, the whiskey's out. They flipped over 3 checks. They slid them over to me, and it was $45,000, $15,000 from each of them. And they said, we know you're worried to keep things going to support your family. You've helped Chinatown an awful lot. We're here to help you because you've been helping us. I said, I can't take that. You're stupid. He hit me. And then was crumpling the checks, throwing them back and forth. I says, I can't take it. But if I'm really in trouble, I know I can call on you. Yeah, Jean-Luc, while we got talking, because especially Wong Wei, his English was not very good. Edmund was quite good, and Donald Young's was quite great. He came from England with his children as well. So he had that actually English accent, but his Cantonese was very good. And that's where I learned a lot of my Cantonese, was through Donald Young, who was my closest pal, along with Wong Wei. So after that night, and not taking the money and knowing it was tight, but I was determined to make it work, I get a call about a week later, maybe 10 days later. I remember it very clearly. I get this call. Hello, is this Allan Degenova? And I said, yes. He says, my name is Allan Lai. I'm the president of Henderson Developments. And I hear you're in the real estate business. And I said, yes, Mr. Lai. I know of who you are because, that was the Tinseltown area here and so forth. But I never really knew him. And he says, well, come down to my offices. We're on the corner of Pender and Thurlow on the 8th floor, of course, right? Being that lucky floor. So I go down to meet him, and I sit there at a beautiful clean desk, and he has this teacup on here and a book right behind his credenza with Mr. Li Shaoqi on it, right? And was his boss. And so I go in and I say, so hello, Mr. Lai. He says, yeah, I hear you're in the real estate. And I said, yeah. He said, we have this project at 183 Kiefer Place, right where the Kiefer Circle is. And in those days, they used to build a lot of their product and then sell it. And in the Tinseltown area, that was where Li Gaxing and Victor Li sold that, what they called the dog's leg, off to Mr. Li Shaoqi. And they always kind of laughed because it was the heaviest contaminated parcel and all of that. At a Hong Kong Racing Club kind of event. So they cut the deal. He owned it, and he owned it for a bit of time beforehand. And so he says, we just built this first one out of the half part of the Kiefer Circle, and we had 167 units approximately it was, and we sold 30 some odd to my friends. This is Allan Lai telling me, Mr. Lee sold in Hong Kong to a lot of his friends, but we have over 130 units and we'd like you to be our agent. Well, I thought, whoa, I'm just in this business 3 months and now I got 130 units to sell. And wow, because, you know, in the day they taught you what we called farming, cold calling, you know, door knocking and getting listings. 130 units. I thought, how am I going to do this? And how's it come? So I said to Vic, who was how I came together through his father, through the Lower Mainland Grocers while I was working in Chinatown. So from there, I got it. I went to Wong Wei and I said, thank you, Wong Wei. I don't know what to do. This is unbelievable. Well, I know what he did. He told his entire community, you have to buy a condominium from Zhang Lequa because he's now in the real estate business. Well, I looked after them so well, the way they could feel that they could look after me as everybody bought a condominium. In 3 months, I sold that whole building out and I've never looked back. That was my community. I worked it right to this very day in the Chinese community, right up until most recently still. And that big part of my career with Vic Jang. He just retired a year ago out. Sutton sold out and I was good for 5 more years. And here I am today, still, you know, carrying on the charge, now looking after men and women in uniform, purpose-built rental, helping make sure that their lives are okay. Working with a lot of my clients that I used to in the real estate world, in some ways either financing or partnering with developers and builders, and full circle, 32 years later, still in the business, helping community, and they sure helped me, and I'm very grateful for that.
What a great story.
That is,
Yeah. Just shows you how important relationships are. No,
Yeah.
and your network.
And being who you are.
Yes.
In that community, trust was everything. You know, in the real estate world, everyone, all they cared about was cut the deal, cut the deal. How much am I making? In that community, as much money as they used to make, everything was made by dollars and cents. In Chinatown, I learned that $1 went from the meat store to the vegetable store to the chicken store to the bakery or to the restaurant where it would meet. So that $1 traveled the entire town is how it kept that economy going. Kind of where we see today when we look at tariffs in our country. We're going to have to do inter-province trading now, servicing our own and working together and then branching out. And I learned a lot by how they worked together, took care of each other. And also it was about unity and trust. And to this day, I carry those values. And a lot of the deals that I did, was a lot of moms that were single that were trying to get into the business or other. My commission was there down. And many, many of those I just gave as part of them to get started. And then here, ironically, years later, almost decades later, I'm now helping their kids buy a place where the moms got established, now doing well, remarried, their kids became adults, helping them. So amazing how it all went. But it was that relationship of working together and supporting people however you can. It's not always about the dollar.
how did you view money? Like when you were, 30, you said you had 3 kids, and what was it about making sure the bills were paid, or what part of the motivation was the financial part?
Yeah, well, my wife to this day, married 45 years, only girl that I met. She was 15, I was 18. So she was a stay-at-home mom in those earlier days for the kids. When we waited out, it was better, she felt, that kind of person. So gave up a big part of her early career for kids. I think in the values, if I look at my kids today about community and involvement, it translated, what you put in is what you get back. And I think in our case, that has proven fairly well. But the dollar was important about learning in the culture of the Chinese community. They were very good, shrewd in a way of knowing how to make the money, but also very kind. If you needed to be helped, they were there to help unconditionally. Unconditionally. Never had, many of my deals to this day. That's why I have to now watch with the new regulations on a napkin, literally on a napkin in the restaurant. This is what I want. This is it is. And when we talked in those days, all cash, no subjects, I mean all cash. And those days are gone now, of course, because of regulations and fin tracking. But it was about real value. And that's what I learned. And it carried with me. And I think it's resonated with my children as well to this day, about value, money. And it's not about having a lot. Money isn't everything. In the real estate world, it was about knowing how you can help, or the sayings about paying it forward. Often what I had, I would share and people would feel awkward, or why would you do this? Well, why wouldn't you? They almost wondered, what's the hidden agenda? And that bothers me. I came from a community of unconditionalness. A lot of people, I'd say, okay, I'm in. And well, what part do you want? I don't know. You needed help. Do you want a percentage of? Well, if it comes together, but I don't need anything, because that's what we do, isn't it? In trust. Sure, I've been taken advantage of more than once because of the same group. And some people say, wake up, because it's kind of like your lab, you know. You can kick it, push it, go to work, come home, and it's at the door still waiting for you, happy as whatever. So it's taken me sometimes a couple of times to learn, because I grew up in a community of trust, hard work, and caring. And I had to wake up to the realization not everybody is like that. In the real estate world, it can be tough. But at the end of the day, Jared, if you're honest and true, and every deal to this very day, I would ask myself, if I would do this deal, would I put my family into this deal? Then yes, I will sell to them. And I can honestly say I have not put anybody into a deal that they've ever lost money. There's been a few where we squeaked out, but never took a hit. And that's all about, really, in that community I came up with, learning, analyzing, when you go in, as to what is the down risk. What at least I know I can get out. May it be rezoning and where it falls, or the opportunities besides that property that they were picking up. They always had the nose of knowing how to look for it, planning ahead. Many of them were in Langley. I'll never forget going back 30 years out in farmland and looking at 200s. And the Asian community, I'd go out, would jump in the car, like in Squamish. And everyone, one little road almost, and they were buying stuff where the bulrushes were coming up, and the skunk cabbage, and it was marshy. Oh yes, Jean Lacroix, this is perfect. Okay, or why perfect? And we'd look at the water and the flow and the feng shui. Everything was about my feng shui, and boy, did I learn a lot about wind, water, and how it worked. I can tell you, the downside, we'd come out even, but everything was pretty well upside. All of them in this last number of years, cashing out of Squamish, done real well. Langley, done real well. The North Shore, done real well. All over the province, when I look at it, amazing. And I've learned a lot from them. But at the end of the day, always the big meal, sharing, astute. You can't underestimate. And there's always apples that are not great in all baskets. But the circle that I worked with, I learned really the value of the dollar, the real estate side, of having that nose of how to bring it together, or thinking out of the box. And I carry those values today, and hence where I can see it in the community of nonprofit, to helping my developers do very well. So when I knock on their door for fundraising dollars, they open up, because I made them millions, and they know I was unconditional there. It wasn't just for my commission.
Allan, you mentioned back in the day there was bags of cash, and now there's more regulation. There's probably a lot more lawyers involved in everything, and government oversight. There's all this sort of stuff that now is in place. And asking it to both of you, but does that change that the type of person that can write something on a napkin and keep their word is still the same person today? That really has. I think sometimes people think that that's changed. I don't think it has. What are your thoughts on it?
No, I don't think it has. And I think, for me anyway, I like to try and keep it simple. Just break it down. Al said it. Trust and relationships, in my opinion, are the two most important things in any business. In life, whether you're in a relationship with your partner, whether you're in a business relationship, you have to have people's trust, and you have to be able to trust them as well.
Mhm.
And you have to have a good relationship, and you have to work to maintain that relationship, and you have to prove to those people that you're a good person as well.
Yeah.
And if you do those two things, you will be very successful. And I often say that to our teams: trust and relationships. You'll never, be short of work in your lifetime, or you'll never be short of friends or people to hang out with. We often say, your net worth is your network. The people that you have around you, and surround yourself with good people. And if you do, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, that's so very true. To this day, and all, like I said, over the last, when I go back even further, when we came, to Canada, but 40 years of involvement in community because it was important when we came here and how that related to the real estate world and all the areas of being involved in anything you do. If you were genuine, be who you are. Sure, you get your high and lows and you have bad days and you have your outbursts and then your feelings, later. But you're the old saying, you're only human, and everyone has good and bad days. But if you're true to your values, there's nothing wrong to apologize, go back. I've hurt people, not intentionally, of making them feel bad or something happened. But, if you go back and you reach out genuinely, it even rekindles or reinforces even more because it just shows that things happen. You can't be perfect. Being married for so many years and the kids, but at the end of the day, your true friendship, your true partner, your wife or your partnership, however that is made up of, often you think you have you think, boy, I could really put all your eggs in that basket of trust with somebody. Not everybody is as trusting perhaps as yourself, or you assumed. I've learned in the hard way and been taken advantage of because they say your problem with you, Al, is you're way too nice. And we couldn't help ourselves. We just take advantage. Because that's
You've
what
had
they've
people
been
say that to you after
absolutely.
taking advantage of you?
Yeah, yeah, and they said, "I'm sorry," and it was I just not so long ago, I had this happen in just over 2 years ago, a major deal that I'm talking millions owed to me, made this project for them millions, but because I'm a napkin kind of guy, my trust with where William has mentioned some of the people he knows, I know, to this very day, 40 years later, can be a napkin or a word, and it's that way. And now I'm dealing with the kids of the development world, a little different because they've been brought up differently, not from the parents, but their outside circle.
Yeah.
And so I have to be a little different. And even dad will tell me, it's not quite like us.
Watch this guy.
Watch my son. It's just the
Yeah,
nature, right?
yeah.
Interesting. But
Yeah, that is interesting.
so, but even they're telling me that their next generation, it's not quite the way they try to instill those values. But if you look at 3 kids in a family, and I'm dealing some big net worth families, each one's a bit different.
Mhm.
And some just sit back and enjoy the cash flow coming in, and they get part of that through it. Not quite the trust yet, but it just
It's
comes.
there, yeah.
The other one wants to prove how they built it better than the other sibling. And
Yeah.
then there's sibling rivalry. And then there's dad calling me to help that part or help that part. It's just amazing. Jean-Luc, in I come. And 98% are the Asian, but then I start getting into some of the other families, Ismaili, Iranian, Italian. So it's very diverse because of my elected years, 15 years in Vancouver. It broke into many communities throughout the city of Vancouver, the province, and hence where I've gotten involved in many different areas. But I carry those values. And a lot of people in today, fellas, they find it very hard. Even when I'm dealing with mayors and councils right now, senior staff, it's right away. What's the agenda? Oh, it's almost, they don't say what the agenda is, but you can read. This can't be factual when I come in. And that's sometimes where I start to lose it a bit, because if I'm coming in full kimono open, this is what I'm trying to do, and you're taking this long to get permits and everything through, when I need to help our men and women to be in housing, and it takes 2 years for the rezoning, and then another year for the process, and then 3 years to build. I don't have a key in the door for 6 years. How do I go back and tell these individuals, hang on, my soldiers that need affordable housing so they can serve in the community that they are working, or my police, fire, ambulance. I need keys now indoors as fast as I can build. And I got exactly that project going. 36 months from now, I need to have keys indoors for hundreds of doors. And I'm making that headway. But you get people that are always reluctant, like, what's your agenda?
And that's kind of what gets to you.
Totally, because
Yeah.
I don't get paid a dime for any of this. So then it's like, oh, Al's in the undertake. Al gets, this. And that's what upsets me, because people just always assume there's a hidden agenda. And that's what probably has been my biggest demise, is that people think, well, everyone's out for themselves. And to this day, I still have a problem. And so just most recently, with the government of Canada deal, I had to sign a 46-page document of conflict of interest. They got everything to my most recent visa bill, everything that I have. in order to build affordable housing through a nonprofit so our men and women in uniform can live in the community they serve, I don't see a dime. The cost for the metering, the flighting to Ottawa, all of my own dime. And that's my job as an honorary colonel when I've been asked to look after it. So the real estate world, to look after our men and women, to create housing. Now the developer, I even wring that rag and say, shake their pockets for a little more to fall out so they can help, because they're doing well. I'm not there to take away. They get their fair percentage, but I've just increased the density because that's what I bring to the table. City steps up, the province steps up. Now I got the federal government stepping up, and then the developer is there as well. And all of this can't take years because I have to have a key in the door. So I'm doing this in months. And then of course I have the time to build out 18 months, 24 months, 30, depending how high. Concrete, some of my best pals, they're proud, a floor a week. And then as they're going, up goes a curtain wall system and everything goes. So we can get keys and doors and moving that system. But at the end of the day, everyone, it's amazing. What is the hidden agenda? I don't have one. I do. My hidden agenda is to deliver this product as fast as I can so our first responders, Canadian Armed Forces, and their families have affordable workforce housing. So again, they can serve in this community and also in this city. We don't realize, but all our men and women that serve, our police, our fire, ambulance, over 90% of them live outside Metro Vancouver. They're coming as far as Hope, Chilliwack, Aldergrove, Maple Ridge, because they can't afford the $5 square foot rents here. And when you take a one bedroom at 580 square feet, it's anywhere from 25 to 2,700 a month. If I can get 30% below that and CMHC medium rents, I can get them in now at 1,700 a month. So now it becomes somewhat affordable. And so that is my mission to deal with on the real estate side. I don't see a dime for that, but not everything is about the dollar. My family is okay if we have one car instead of two. My wife says as much as I don't need 3 dresses when I'm happy with one. If I have to cut back and Pizza Friday is every other Friday, fine. If we can help other people, that's what it's about, and paying it forward. As I mentioned my story about working in Chinatown, having them run out for me to be elected to help my community in order to get me into real estate because they believed in me and helped me all the way through that journey to where I am today. It's not just paying it forward now. It was from the day that I got in, working together and just helping wherever you can, and kept those values, and here I am.
I have to ask both your question because I'm sitting here as you're talking, thinking I'm involved in probably 5 negotiations as we speak, back and forth, going through notes and that. I remember the first time we worked together, I told you what we were doing, you went, yeah, okay. I was kind of like, and it's just like, that was it. That was the conversation. And then we continued on, we started making the show. And then the way I've got the privilege of working with a few people like that over the years and more, I'm gathering more and more around that I don't need something signed. I just know how they do things. But how do you deal with people that I also deal, I'm in the heavy industry world for the most part. They bring the paperwork. They want details. I have to sit in front of a board or I only get to talk to one person and they take it to the board. So there's a lot of detail that goes in. How do you deal with that though? That's not how they approach things. And they can't approach it like that. They've got people that they need to answer to. How do you, I personally deal with that all the time.
Yeah, well, William, you want to take that first?
Yeah, look, it's a never-changing world. Al, you grew up in a time where you shook someone's hand and you looked into their eye, and that was a deal, and your word was absolutely everything. And so did I. Like, I came from a small village in the west of Ireland with a couple of thousand people. If you had a bad reputation, it was all over. Nobody would do any business with you, and that's no different from here in Vancouver. I think there's a lot of people here in this city, but it's a pretty small industry. Everybody knows everybody, and your reputation is everything, and you're only as good as your last deal.
Yes.
And but things have changed, and I do agree with putting things on paper nowadays. I have been in my earlier years, I suppose I've been pretty lackadaisical or pretty loose about that, but it's different. It's different now. And I always say, you know, especially if you're doing a deal with your friends or your family, you
Yeah.
know, I say, put it in paper, write down every single detail. We don't want any surprises or any confusion, because sometimes that causes upset.
That's the thing. So you're talking about you have to do the same thing, but you're kind of still approaching it from a place of kindness, saying we'll make sure that this is all taken care of, so
Yeah.
there's no confusion. between
Exactly. And
anybody.
explain that to them,
Yes.
you know, because,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of people think that he's my friend. So, you know, we're going to do this deal, but it's a pretty complicated deal. But, you know, we don't need to write anything down. But I'm the opposite now. I say, you know, we're friends and we want to be friends forever. So we're going to write absolutely
People
everything
forget
down.
what
We're
they
going to.
say. Sometimes
do.
people just
Oh,
forget.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they genuinely forget.
Yeah.
It's not on purpose, and then it causes conflict and people fall out. And I've seen that happen too many times. So, you know, I am a big proponent of putting everything in writing now and making sure that it's very clear and very transparent and open communication.
Mhm.
Talk about it.
Right.
you know?
You're keeping sort of the moral behind it, but you're just adding on a layer of basically just documentation.
And that's it exactly, Jared,
Yeah.
and is what William said. When I say that on the napkin, it's about when you work with somebody, you have to know that you need this material and this is what they're going to do. And you're hoping that they're using that material and not that. So there's a clearness. But when I say that it's on the napkin, it's about a genuine trust when I'm doing something that I just know they're not wringing the rag, that they, you know, the job is that much better, or you can entrust for the sake of, I don't know how to translate it, but it's a trust of knowing that if you're going to do this work, it's going to be done to the best of the ability, and I don't need to have everything line by line. To William's point, yes, even with the family, you know, as things go, you want clarity. So it's not that's what's going to be mine, or vice versa, or whatever. It was about the unconditionalness of what I was going to deliver. I don't need to break it down to every, you know, if I use materials like in construction, I know that I'm going to get higher grade materials, you know, standard or better. You know, it's like in the 2x4. Is it, you know, am I getting fir, or am I getting, you know, pine, or, you know, it's the old saying, standard or better. I just know that you're not going to give me the cheaper materials for the same price. You couldn't help yourself that this is my friend. I'm giving the best materials, because that's where I'm trying to go with is
Yeah.
if I say I need 400 2x4s to build this, and it was 320, you credit me the difference, because why wouldn't I? Or I use
Right.
better materials because I could get that, rather than it doesn't matter in the job. I'm just going to frame it, build it. Who cares? It's all buttoned up. But I'm going to make sure I'm putting good material. I'm trying to say that I would just want to do that for you, because why not give you the best? You didn't even ask for it. It's just because that's what I would do. And in my service today, not to take away, but in the real estate world, you want to buy a home. Al, I'd like to buy on the west side. Okay, show you 6 homes. A lot of them say, well, which one of the 6 do you like? I have right now, I'm dealing with the children of the developers. Well, I like that one. I said, well, let's take our time a bit here. If that one's gone, there's always another. Let's be sure what we buy is really solid. I know you're anxious. So rather than just cutting the first one of 6 deals, which one would you like? It fits within your wheelhouse. I don't know necessarily. I have to put myself in your shoes, planning out when we sell. Will it sell in 3 years? You're not buying for today. You're almost planning for tomorrow. Not everybody wants white dresses when I own a dress shop. I can't put all white dresses when I know everyone wants red or black dresses, right? You got to plan for what others. So when you're buying that home, yes, we want to enjoy it and fix it, but you also need to know when I go to sell, is there room to grow? Is the market
Right.
there? And again, when I'm instilled, it's a trust that I'm here to look after my clients as I would look after, like I said earlier, my family or myself. Would I buy that home? If I put you in there, is there room to grow? Is it going to go from a duplex to a fourplex? Now we got the province. Everything can be X under the, you know, if you're in a transit orientated area, right? Knowing ahead, planning ahead. I could just cut that, but wouldn't it be great if you said, God, Al, I said, you know what? You should really buy up at the corner of 41st and Dunbar, because that's where it's going to end at the TOA. And you know what? If you bought 3 houses up, kind of nice, a bit busier, but they're going to knock on your door in less than 5 years, and you'll quadruple your home, because there's your value. Fix it up. It's quite lovely. You're not sacrificing anything, but isn't that nice? Say when you bought it for $1 million, you put 100,000 in, but they're knocking on your door and giving you 5 because your density just went here. And it's about thinking ahead. I'm putting myself in that position all the time. Not that that family even cared. The school's close by and the park is close by. So I'm always thinking ahead for my client when I don't need to do that. But it's just the nature of caring. How would I bring them in my circle, even though they don't expect that, and it pays dividends. But why wouldn't I do that, right? It's going that extra mile with they don't even require or ask or expect. It's just, would you do that for your child? What is best for them? You go to the store and they want candy. Well, is that the one that's all natural? Does it have artificial flavors? As a parent, you're worried, is it good for you or not, right? I want that, Mom. The same thing with my clients. I really like that little building. Okay, let's think, are we better to buy down the street because that's where it's going to be rezoned for whatever? Same kind of building, warehousing. Why don't we go here? I could have just sold that deal, been out and gone, but I know they're going to do better here. It takes a little more work. It may be a bunch of hoops that I have to take it through to get that for them, but by far better in the long run for them. Nothing more for me. I would have got paid the same, a lot more work, but better for them. So you're always looking your client if they were your family, and it doesn't matter how big the deal. You mentioned earlier in Ottawa, you have to go in. It might be the handshake. So I'm dealing at the lowest level, all the way right up to assistant deputy minister, to the assistant minister, to the minister, right to the prime minister. So you have all of that. So talk about paperwork and oh my goodness, to the nth degree. There is that trail, and I understand it. But all behind that, I need to know that you truly are genuine. And, as the old saying of politicians and like real estate people, you're like the vacuum cleaner salesman, right? They always diminished what you were. Well, actually, vacuum cleaner, but did you want a shark? Did you want a Dyson? Did you want a Hoover? All different qualities. What's wrong with vacuum? Oh, so you're making the analogy, I'm a vacuum cleaning salesman. Well, I hope that I'm the Hoover because they're steady, reliable. The Dyson's pretty fancy and techy, but they only go for 30 minutes. My Hoover will run for hours because of the nature of it. So, it's interesting. Oh, so, whoa, okay, we didn't need to use that analogy, Well, you used it on me. So it's like, let me tell you about the vacuum cleaning salesman. People sometimes will give you an analogy. Well, you're just that kind of guy. Well, what's wrong with that kind of guy? And I think it's like, okay, wrong thing. My point is, anything that somebody says, I take it for value, and I will stand up for those values. That's all you got at the end of the day. As you said, William, you're good as your last deal. And that is so very true, that the last deal you did, they did well. You just want everyone to keep doing better, just like your children or your family. You want them to do better. That's your circle. But this community is my family. You're my family. I know that's hard to believe when I leave here. All of you. I just can't. It's how I've been since I come to this country. I worry about you. And did you call your mom and your dad on the weekend? How were you when you were up at Sun Peaks? Did you drive too fast? The kids were okay? I'm worried that you're going up there this weekend.
I feel like he's actually asking you.
Well, I do. And people think that's a bit strange. And you mentioned about, that you have to make sure your paperwork is tight. If not, so I go away and think, God, he's working really hard. He's doing great. I hope that deal he does doesn't take him out. What can I do to steer that in case? That's just how I'm geared. I'm just looking after all of the things. Do I need to? No. Yeah, I really do worry about when you told me about your mom and your dad, and you're the only person you're here, and I can't help that. That's just how I'm worked. You remember that some months back? I work like that, just constantly. Got a call the other day. Somebody needed me to go out now to Delta to pick up this bed that's all automated. Father passed away. Could have just done. So I said, no problem. I go pick it up. I already found someone else that could use it. And then it's automatically, it all bends and tips and lowers and that. Like I'm up to here with work, but there's a $5,000 bed that I help and give to a veteran or somebody that could really use it with a high disability. They luck out and do really well. They're happy to get it out of there because they have to think where it goes, and they paid this much money. And I've just helped. Now, I'd drive all the way out to Delta, come back, call my clients. You're on hold because it's got to get out of there because that room's being filled at the senior thing, because it's a constant maze. Efficiency of time, not always, but helping somebody that could really use that because they just can't get out of bed and they could never afford that. They're happy because it went from somebody who they really loved and cared about and spent huge money because of that love and knowing where it was going. There's an after effect of knowing that's help. It's kind of like the when you're in and you're donating your organs, an organ transplant. and you see it in very young children through Honor House and Honor. And then when I opened Ronald McDonald House 42 years ago, it was about children passing away and knowing various body parts are going to other people. Some will find that not good. Others will know that my child or my spouse is carrying on, and that's kind of paying it forward and knowing there's some hope. Different ways that people look at it. I don't judge. I just know I can help that person. For that person, have no clue on the street of who they may be, but it's just what you do. And you can say things, well, it's about humanity and all the right stuff. And I just have a circle as an honorary colonel to look after my people, my men and women in uniform. But it just resonates all the way around that when you leave here today and you think, oh my goodness, I got to get going now. I got to catch up, and phones ringing. You got to help all those people, and you too. And you got to get home. I just worry about all that because then stress is coming on, and then, anxiety, and this whole part of this world, and then bringing it back. You can't help, as everyone says, you can't help everyone now, but if everyone helped everybody a little bit, it can just be a better place.
Al, you have so much going on all the time. We didn't even get to your 5-term as Park Board Commissioner. You mentioned there briefly Ronald McDonald House, saving the Nat Bailey Stadium. We could be here for days, but with so much going on all the time, and anytime I meet up with you, I'm like, what's going on, Al? And you tell me what's happening, and I'm just blown away. How do you manage it all? Like, I hear from people in our office who, struggle a bit, and I do myself too, with time management and having a young family. How do you spend time with your family, that life-work balance? How do you make sure that you don't miss any important meetings, that everything is in your calendar, and that you get to all of those meetings every day and on time? Please tell us the secret.
Well, it's not in the world that I've managed to be involved with, crisis management or whatever the day-to-day, your meetings are structured. I sometimes look at it as like the doctor. When you go into the doctor's office, seldom do you show up. You're immediately walking in, and then your appointment is always a plus or minus 15 minutes or so, because he or she is finishing up with that last appointment. Whenever I deal with anybody, yourselves, whoever that might be, I give the 100% unconditional, whatever that is, because it's important, especially with my men and women in uniform. If they're struggling with something, you can never look like, okay, that's great, when you go to the clinical meeting and there they are with the file and the legs crossed, and you're number 4982, and how can I help you today? I find it very hard when you're going in, as opposed to, it's great to see you, Jared. Thanks for coming in today. Our session last time was, as opposed to, I need to connect with somebody that really, am I just coming in? Yes, you're the doctor, you're my psychologist, my psychiatrist, but do you really care about me? Or are you, I know you can't be too personal with each individual, but yet I poured everything out. You know everything about who I am and how I'm surviving today because you keep me alive. So we're talking lives all the time with what I deal with. Maybe even in our work, we work hard to keep our families going, our companies going, our staff going every day, knowing that if I don't keep it going, I can't look after them. But for a lot of people, how much is enough? What can I do to be truly, genuine in some areas, especially in the health and wellness? It's hard for a lot of them, because even when you look at some of the doctors or some of the frontline workers that I'm dealing with right now, our nurses, what they see every day and then go home is traumatic. When they try to save that person that just came into a life situation, and they're jump starting and trying to keep that person, couldn't save that little one or the older one or whatever it is from an accident that took place, it's another rock in their pack. And then what that plays in their families or in their business life. A lot of good business people are involved, Covenant House, various things that they get involved with, and see these kids on the street. Could my kids be like that? People with wealth, a lot, they can't always help their children. Money can't buy everything. They've done the very best. I got one right now. I was just reading a file last night. His name is James. Both parents were very big lawyers, QC. Money was not an object, the West Side home, and he took his life. And then you could see the file and reading all through the documents and everything. And that was only because the real estate deal I did, they gave me a box of all stuff that I had to go through to help deal with. And then the deal closed and I still had the box. And when I was going through, there was a file and there was their son and all that. They didn't say anything, but I couldn't help myself to see how he took his life and all the things that they tried to help deal with. So there is an example of all the money in the world, hundreds of millions, billions, whatever it is, doesn't mean sometimes a life. If somebody wants to take it, sometimes you just can't stop it. You can't be with them 24/7. And yet I'm just compelled. I don't know about yourselves. You drive over the Lionsgate Bridge minimum once a week for a day only. There's a card. May John, be happy in his life, Judy, because they take them down right away. Because often the people walk there, there's 2 yellow boxes on each side of the bridge, halfway, to encourage to open that yellow box to make the call, to not jump. And yet you can't help all, but if you can help one, the old saying is, or because they feel that they just can't get that connection, it's not always about money. That family tried. I have, I don't mind saying, Corporal Cote. They've done everything. I got him in transition. If he doesn't want to try to help himself, the relapses. He's had multiple tours. He came out of CSOR and JTF2, did a lot of bad stuff in his career as a young soldier, integrating back. And I'm always his last lifeline, sir. 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. So when we talk, the first thing that came to my mind, William, is you try to keep your appointments and keep things going. And then I'll go to check my phone because it's not here. And if it's going, and I'm going to the most important meeting I'm going to, and then I get this call from Corporal Cote. What do I do? Try to save him because I know I can do it this time, or to go to my appointment because it's a deal, not just to neglect them, but it's a money-driven deal that they're doing well, and there's all that behind it. And when you get into the depths to keep the empire going and what they do, or a life right now, right? And it's constant for me, constant. And it wears on you. I call it secondhand smoke because I'm not trained for a lot of this, right? I'm the volunteer, and I just grow from what I was talking about in different areas. But if you give 100% in anything you do, may it be your works that you're doing yourself, and to kind of finish here, it's about just being who you are, unconditional every day, but it does play on you. It does task you. So sometimes it's your friends, hopefully you have, just to check in. Often if I find somebody a little bit stressed or whatever, out of nowhere, it's, the fellow, that father just passed away. Everyone for that next week, think of it. How you doing? Call me anytime. I'm here for you. Week 2, week 3, week 4. Month 1, month 2, but month 3, 12 weeks, people get back to their lives. They get busy. And that's when it's really kicking in. They're going through the drawers, getting rid of the undies, everything. And it's boom, it hits them even more because I had to deal with, and that's when I'm kind of come in as the cleanup. When everything's done, everybody means well. That's when I'm starting to come in for the next round, because sometimes that's when then when they're really collapsing, they have no one to go to, and they don't want to go back because you spent a week with me and I feel bad to eat up your time and it's everything. Oh, it's fine. I'm okay. I'm here for you. But it's usually that next round. It's kind of like in the infantry, you're flanking from the left as you're going, and then you're coming again, and you keep coming. And that's what happens in Ukraine. How does that smaller armor maintain? They're driven, they stay, they come from different ways, constantly, as small as they are. And it's looking after my circle of people like yourselves. It's just, I'm geared that way. I don't know what it is. It's, I want to change it. I've tried to change it. I've gone to get help to change it because it's a drive, that it's tough to change, but I'm compelled to help. And the moment you say, my schedule's here, I can always move things around a bit, because if you need it, if you're asking me, must be important to you. Well, it's not that important. Okay, I thought it was really important. Well, then they fill up. I said, hey, let's go. If you really need that, let's go. If you break down in hope tonight at 2 a.m. on your way back from Sun Peaks, and the kids are all tired, what do? And oh God, I call BCA and they're not getting to you until in the morning. Call Al, 1-800-AL. What do you need? My truck, extra seats, car seats, what, where, the blankets. There in an hour and a bit. I'll try to do it a little less. Pick you up, get you in, boom. And it's just what you do, right? Unconditional.
I have a sister that's like you.
So
And
not
she's
to
always
belabor
had-
all of this, but
Yeah.
that's what it's about, isn't it? And having your back. And again, I wasn't even a Cub Scout, so being an honorary and
Yeah.
using the analogy sometimes for soldiers, I don't know, on your arm, like, I had no idea. And it's not that I learned a lot from that, because my values were no different in working in the Chinatown community, and you know, through the Nat Bailey and saving of the Nat, everyone would love that was important to a lot of people. They lived their lives for that. Well, we need to save the little ballpark that could then. If it's that important to you, we're saving it. If you whatever it is, if it's absolutely important, then we got to do it, right? And I've done many different things because it's that important. Search and rescue in Squamish. They need to do something. Let's make that happen. I mean, saving the salmon at Kanaka Creek out in Maple Ridge. How important is that? And those fry to get up to keep the eco program going, so our children's children will know. Then we got to do that. So let's build those boxes and get it together. Well, we don't have the money, so I go to the lumber guys, get the natural woods, that cedar, that makes a sense, and I deliver it. Well, why would you do all that? You got all this going because it was so important for you, wasn't it? Well, yeah. Okay, then there it is. I drop a jag of material, boom, there it is, right? I got a sink in Maple Ridge. They need stainless steel to get, so I just fit it in, right? At 11 or 10 at night, as long as it's outside and it's paid for. What am I doing from 10 to 1 in the morning? I just drive out there. There it is. I load in my truck, put it in, strap it down, drive an O'Henry bar, look at me, and I drive back, right? So that's what you do.
So did you get your?
So you're laughing.
No,
Brilliant. No, it's
I
brilliant.
think we're. I don't know.
4 in the morning later. That's why I said to the government, you're all so busy. Okay,
Yeah.
Standard Eastern Time. Well, why don't we
That's a
meet
lot.
at 5 in the morning to 6? What are you doing at 5? Well, they didn't want to say I'm sleeping. Well, you're here to serve. I understand that. Sleep a little later tomorrow. This is critical.
Right.
You call me and say, Al, that's why the 24/7. That's why I'm doing childcare now, 24/7 childcare in BC. We don't have it because a lot of our men and women work shift work. And I may have said, parents are living in Edmonton. I'm here. Who's going to look after Johnny or Jane? And I got the flu and I have to go do a long-term shift because I can't get paramedics because we live in Maple Ridge. It goes on and on. The wheel, the hamster wheel just keeps going. So we need to have that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, government. So I'm pushing forward. We got the first one near VGH. I'm going to have the next one now in New Westminster and just grow it. So Fraser Health now, Jim Sinclair, the chair, says, oh my God, Al, how are you doing? I felt like saying, well, you're the chair of the entire health system. You know, this is how we do it, Jim. Unbelievable. He's all pumped up. He's feeling great. We're supposed to pump me up, but we're all pumping up. Let's get her going. And let's be real, though. Let's not all just talk. We got to do.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen. This Friday is the meeting. Had to move things around, but that's when we're doing it. So you just got to fit it in, just like an emergency room trauma care. He's just not sitting there thinking one's coming at 2 and one's coming at 3. You don't know when it's coming, right? Head-on collision happen, in it comes. And then, you know, Ward 3, Ward 1, curtain 2, you're just constantly going. And then I'm laying in that hospital and the curtains slide around. First thing I think, oh, those little hooks all the way around were made by Benton and Overberry. I made 42 million of those while I was 9 years old when I came from Canada to Canada. Those little plastic hooks that go around and there's a little metal hook. I put every one of those together for 1 cent each. 100 of those was $1. That was about the Chinatown values. So when you're in a hospital next time, meeting somebody, you're in there and you look up and you see those curtain hooks.
I was just looking at them because we might be using them for our studio.
Yeah.
I was talking to my wife.
First thing, I
about them.
can't help.
Yeah.
I'm in emergency and you're almost hemorrhaging. You know, I'm looking at what's holding the curtains up. You know, I know it sounds strange.
No,
but,
not at all.
they're still, even to this day, that was important for privacy. Where it's just, my point is, I made those. My dad made a special little jig so I could speed it up to make it work better because they were desperate to get them, to get the curtains up in newer hospital for privacy and a lot of things. Because in trauma areas, they had to have it because of what went on when stuff comes in. So everything's important to that person, I guess, and the moral of what I'm saying here in the story.
Mhm.
If it's important to you, I got to deliver on that.
Yeah.
And it's in many areas.
Well, when I was saying I've got a sister like you, every time I talk to her, she's out in the field chasing after somebody's dog or whatever. And I'm just thinking, and she's getting bitten by them and always helping somebody. For a while, I was trying to tell her, like, you got to kind of just, like, can't get involved in everything. But then I realized that's who she is.
Mm-hmm.
And I also realized for myself, I'm not the person. I always think of it in this way. I'm the person, if I go bowling, if I'm hanging out and having fun with everybody, I'm the worst bowler in the whole thing. If I'm focused, I'm the best. That's how I can't have 50 things going on.
But that's good.
But you need to know who you are and how you deal best with stuff. If you're not the type of person that can handle 50 things, do 5 or do 3 till you get something and then add a 4th. Or You know, someone like you, obviously, I couldn't do. I'm getting tired just thinking about like the salmon in the boxes, and I'm thinking then you got the hospital and the honor house, and that, you know, my mind can't think like that, but yours can, and you'd probably need it if.
Yeah, I don't use the word thrive on it.
Yeah.
I'm just geared. I feel like I'm the Generac that when something's wrong, it kicks in automatically,
Right.
because it's the backup.
Yeah.
And so I would be like the Generac there. I'm not coming for the sake of showing up because, you know, first thing that you said, I'm great at bowling. And if you really love bowling and then you're there, you would have two fast. What I just had, a flash, is you love your bowling, you go. Most bowlers will have 1 or 2 or 3 bowling.
Oh, no, I don't love bowling. That's just an example.
So you go there and you're parked in an area where bowling alleys aren't always the best place sometimes because of the land. So now you're in there with one, but your best one's in the car. So I had to think, okay, I hope Jared's bowling ball in the back isn't going to be stolen because he left it on the seat. And then he's going to find out, oh my God. So the first thing I'd say, oh, this is great. Do you have another one? Yeah. Is your other one that you have okay where you've left it in the car? Or do you want to go get it before you go out and roll? That's right away. What, where, when? I know it's strange. It's like if you went shopping for Christmas, everybody say, okay, I just can't help. When you're going, you have a black plastic bag. So you in the back, you can't see it through the window because it's black and it kind of hides out because you don't pull the tonneau cover over it or whichever. I just get always into that hole, whatever it's going to take. You know, tools that wherever you guys are going, you know, is it the special toolbox or what? And that's why my family, I mean, but mind you, I have left and right socks, right? So, so when you get up tomorrow morning, you're thinking, is that the right sock or the left sock? No, there's a saying. But I have to look at the slight curve and say, oh, that one probably is on this foot. Did you do that this morning? No. Did you do that? No. And yourself?
Gowdy might have.
Okay.
She's pretty.
I have to look at the sock, how they curve. And then, oh, that's that foot. I'm just how I am. Yeah. Are my laces about the same? When I go to the car, everyone's car mat's clean in the morning. You know, it's like, oh, I can't take it anymore. So you can say type A, what, where. No, I worried that if the map's not, you know how they have them little things so they don't slip when my daughter gets in and they're wet. If she gets in there and she does it, it could maybe slip in the gas pedal and then off she goes. She's got my I'm just constantly. Just down to the floor mat, right? Or whatever. I just,
everybody
has an automatic whatever. And that's just how I am.
Yeah. And I know you got to respect that.
And enjoy it.
We're all different. Exactly. Yeah. Embrace it. Yeah.
That's where I am.
Yeah.
That's who I am. Here to help, serve, and provide. And if you ever need anything, 1-800, call Al. Here I am for you, unconditionally.
Well, I looked at my notes once, I think, for this interview. This is what you want. We put notes together so that we make sure the conversation keeps going. But this is what you hope for. That you just talk.
Just before we go, Al, will you give a little piece of advice, one piece of advice, or if you were doing it all over again, is there anything you do different? Or any advice that you'd give to our listeners starting out in business, in particular in Vancouver, BC, where you've done most of your business all your life?
Yeah, I would say that you need to be unconditional. It's not easy when you get involved with whatever you're doing. Everyone, intentions are great. Sometimes you think a bit bigger than, you know, it's like my granddaughter. She wanted 3 pieces of toast. I knew Lily could only eat 1, but she had to have 3. The business, I'm going to grow it this big. I've learned in the community that I've served in the Chinese community, that tiny little shop with the wagon or the lady selling her papers with a little stand grew into a bit bigger stand that then grew into a space and if you look in their malls, like in the Chinatown mall that we have at Kiefer, they all had little stands inside. Then they ended up getting stores. And then before you know it, they saved and watched. Then they took the 10,000 square foot. And before you know it, they have 5 locations. And it's all about this, you know, the old baby steps or different terms that you want to use. It's about step at a time, have a plan B, know that you've got someone that'll have your back to watch you because you'll always get those rough days and tight days. Nothing's for sure. And there's all those sayings. Who would have known tariffs are coming and what could happen? What's that ripple effect? I was just even thinking about yourself. William, and my worry, like, if you're going to open another shop or who would have known tariffs? How's that going to worry? Cash flow. Are you going to be, I'm not thinking about, let's just do that other lease. I'm already worried about everybody and how it goes for anybody's business, right? Because I want everyone to succeed as best as they can. I want my first responders to do as well as they can to help other people. So if you look after your customers unconditional, you always, eat all you can for the same price. Doesn't mean that's always good, because that may not be good for their health. I'd rather know they got quality as opposed to quantity. So prize yourself on your business or whatever it is. Know whatever you're passing on is what you believe for yourself. A lot of them do, but within a realistic way, and you will succeed. You cannot fail. And failure is okay, because it isn't failure. It's basically a learning process to keep growing. So you've never really failed. All my failures have been a way to just steer my way to get to the end goal, is to help other people feel good and succeed. And hence, I just succeeded with that. So my failures have never been failures. They've been way that I've learned just that much better. And hence why I can feel good every day that I've done my best by looking after everyone, including yourselves, and William being my close pal, more than he even knows. Worry about everything that he doesn't even know about that I worry about. So that's just who I am. And I would say to your viewers, your listeners, that, give it all you can within reason. The people you have around, care about, look after, being mindful that it's a different world today. But as long as you can believe in yourself and care about yourself, you got to feel good about who you are. That's all you can expect in life.
No better way to end it than that.
Thank you, Al.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you on the...
Keeping you.
No, not at all. Not at all. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode.